Welcome into the GC Live post-game show. South Carolina takes care of North Carolina State, and now the Gamecocks are just one win away from advancing to Supers. Mike Cube alongside me is the one and only Intern Joe. And Joe, let's just start with what we saw tonight in terms of USC continuing from an offensive standpoint. We knew, and we talked about this last night, we weren't expecting USC to put up the 19 runs that they did last night against Central Connecticut State. Offensively, though, especially early on, you saw that home run from Wimmer. They were able to do just enough. And you knew the pitching would have to continue. They would have to continue to be as strong as they were the night before, and that's exactly what we saw from the Gamecocks today.
Yeah, Mike, they got it done. They scored early. Shout out to Wimmer for that home run. I think that was huge, carried momentum into the rest of the game. And the pitching staff, I was really impressed with Chris Veach coming in, shut it down in the ninth, doing what he does best. I think he established himself as a closer from here on out when, he has the durability to do so. And I think Veach does down the road. So it's always exciting to see. I was also impressed with Eli Jones. Although he struggled a little bit, he was able to get things back on track. Mahoney looked good for the most part. A couple base hits led to a couple runs. That happens. But good baseball all around for South Carolina. Good on the bullpen to close it down in the clutch. And you're playing tomorrow.
Yeah, and you look at the offensive statistics from South Carolina tonight, and if you're just joining us, former Gamecock Andrew Eyster will be joining us momentarily. Andrew was at the game tonight, so he is heading out to his car. He said, hey, can you give me a couple minutes? Just want to get back to my car to make sure I'm good. But Eyster will be joining us to share his thoughts, which, look, again, and we talked about this. This NC State team was a team that had it taken away from them 2 years ago, right? They had it taken away from them. They did not have that opportunity to play Vandy in that game that would have allowed them to play in a College World Series championship series. So I said all that because they had experience. What you were going up against tonight was nothing like what you did last night. And while you did win tonight, and while you are into the driver's seat heading into Sunday, something that USC was not 2 years ago, you have to be able to finish this now. You're in the driver's seat. You have everything going your way. Offensively, you've been able to figure things out. Pitching-wise, you've been able to do everything needed from these first two games in this regional. So everything that you were looking for from USC in these first two games, they've done exactly that. You see the statistics tonight, what USC was able to do at the plate. Was it anything like what we saw last night? Certainly not. And you would hope that the plate discipline can get better, right? You look at some of that. Yeah, they were able to draw 9 walks, 13 strikeouts, though. This USC team, they were able to find some good from last night, and it carried over into today. Is everything perfect? Is everything sunshine and rainbows? No, but it's baseball. It's baseball. It's not always going to be the exact same that you saw from the night before. And with this USC team today, we saw it. We saw Wimmer step up. Here's a guy that was drafted a year ago that had the opportunity to go play Major League Baseball. But instead, he came back, one of 3 Gamecocks that were drafted last year. And to be in the situation that he is today, and he hits that home run to give you that early spark, that's what you're looking for out of your seniors. That's what you're looking for out of a leader like Wimmer. So again, for South Carolina to take advantage early on, we talked about that, Intern Joe. We talked about it last night. It wasn't just about going out here and, hey, do what you got to do. They were able to get those 2 runs early in that third inning. They tack on another 4, of course, in the 5th. And that was really where the game went their way. I know NC State was able to score 3 in the 6th, but to be able to score those 2 runs in the third inning, it really set the tone. And I want to give a lot of credit to it to last night. I don't think that happens unless South Carolina has the offensive production that they had last night. I don't think that happens today as early as it did.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, we talk about momentum in college baseball, how big it is. Just go out and score 19 last night. Obviously, it wakes up the bats. You're feeling good. You sleep well. Go into tonight, and 6 runs is plenty. I mean, it's an offensive outpouring, like you said, Mike. It put the game out of reach. I mean, the 3 runs that NC State scored, I mean, you knew they were going to need 2 innings, as we were joined by our guest. Ice, how's it going, big dog?
It's going well. It's going well. Sorry, this is the best lighting I can do right now. But
hey, that's all right, man. You were at the game. We told the viewers that you were at the game tonight. And again, joining us now, former Gamecock outfielder Andrew Eyster. We appreciate you joining us because I know you were at the game tonight. And Ice, I know you're very close with a lot of these guys still on this team. Just your overall thoughts about what you saw from South Carolina tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty complete performance tonight. I think last night, which I was not able to be there last night, but I think last night they got a little of that mojo back that they were playing with early in the season and carried that into today. Jack looked incredible for 5 innings. And really, you take away three batters, and I mean that was just a gem that he threw. It reminded me of playing behind some of Brett Carey's starts that he had in his time here. But again, just a lot of timely hitting, great defense, like some awesome plays on defense. By Wimmer and Cassis and some others, and it was a all around pretty solid performance, I thought.
When you think back to 2 years ago, right? You guys have an opportunity, of course, to be able to win on Saturday and play in that Sunday game up in the winner's bracket. This team's able to do that now. Obviously, the situation much different compared to 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. What's that mindset now? Because it's like, all right, hey, we're in the winner's bracket. All we have to do now is win one game. You're in that state of mind. Like, what do you think's going through the players' minds right now? Is it, hey, we're one game away, or is it, hey, we got to make sure we keep our foot on the pedal?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, I think it's a little of both. It's you don't want to have to play that extra game if you don't have to. I remember when we were in the regional 2 years ago, it was kind of deflating losing that second game because you're like, you got to play 4, and no one's played 4 games in a weekend the whole year, and after 3 games in a weekend, your body's toast, your mind's toast, you're ready for a little break, and so playing 4 is tough. It's tough on you, and so I'm sure these guys just want to come out tomorrow and put it to them and get out of there as regional champions and move on to next weekend.
What's this weekend like though, Ice? Because you guys are used to playing 3-game series, but at the same time too, you're not going up against the same teams. You're not going up against the same players every day. I know you weren't a pitcher, but the point being is you're not going up against the same, that routine of playing, Team X. You're going up against Team X, Y, and Z. For South Carolina to be in the situation that they're in right now, to be up 2-0, and I say 2-0, I mean going into this third game now, the confidence has to be, I know it's so cliche to say, but the confidence has to make some type of difference in a regional like this, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, getting to play someone new every day, I think makes it a little more exciting. That's one of the reasons why playoff baseball is so much fun. But yeah, it's such a momentum game, and to get these first 2 wins, it puts us at such an advantage going into tomorrow. And I think all those guys are feeling it right now, and I think they're going to come out tomorrow excited, and ready to whoop up on whoever it ends up being. So I'm sure they're all super excited to be in the position that they're in right now.
Yeah, Ice, you were there tonight. How much of an advantage was Founders Park tonight?
Oh my gosh, yeah. When Founders Park is like it is tonight, when it's slam packed, man, it's hard to have much more of a home field advantage than we did tonight, man. Those guys are so lucky to be able to play in this kind of environment, and I was lucky to be able to do it too for a few years, and it's like no other place in America, and it's so exciting. There's so much energy. So much passion in that stadium for Gamecock baseball. It's so much fun to be around.
And real quickly, because Lynn put it out there tonight, Florida did lose. Just taking a little peek. Again, not trying to get too ahead of ourselves. But, of course, if South Carolina is able to win their regional, they're paired up with Florida's region. And Florida fell tonight to Texas Tech. So Florida will have to play tomorrow at noon against UConn, and they're going to have to win. Now, if they advance, they're going to beat Texas Tech twice if they beat UConn tomorrow. So, again, just to look ahead just a little bit. But, of course, South Carolina has to take care of business tomorrow. With that being said, Ice, you're going into a game like this tomorrow. You understand what's on the other side of it. How the hell do you stay focused? How the hell don't you look further knowing, okay, because during this tournament, I want you to be honest with me, and I feel like you will, because you're not a player anymore. You're not going to give us the generic player BS.
He gave us some stories on foul balls, Mike.
With this going on right now, okay? You play a game tonight. You have to play tomorrow now. Are you on your phone at all? I mean, we understand the social media era. I mean, it's growing. I mean, you're on your phone 24/7. A lot of these guys, you try to do your best during the season. Are you paying attention at all? Do you know that Florida lost tonight? What do you do to try to distance yourself knowing like, hey, we have to win tomorrow? All this other stuff means absolutely nothing. How do you distance yourself?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows what's going on right now. It's all these guys are baseball guys. Everyone, when these guys leave the field, they're probably going home and watching other games. That's how it is during this time. It's fun to watch baseball. It's fun to watch these other teams and what's going on in these other regionals. So like they definitely know what's going on. You just got to focus on winning tomorrow. And again, I know after Florida losing tonight, it starts to become apparent. There's a possibility we might be hosting a super regional here, and that's awesome. That's exciting. But yeah, definitely can't let that get in the way tomorrow. Tomorrow, you just show up. They just got to show up tomorrow with the mindset of just winning this game and again moving on to next weekend. And if we end up being able to host here a super regional, that's awesome. I don't know how long it's been. I know it's been a little while. But I mean, that'd be awesome for Columbia, awesome for the program. And I hope that's how it ends up. But I know those guys are just going to come tomorrow and focus on winning the game tomorrow.
Ice, how much does it help? Because obviously we saw South Carolina score 19 runs last night. How much does it help to have the bats alive and have an offensive outpouring like you did last night? How much does that help in a game like tonight and going into tomorrow as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think last night definitely helped with momentum for today. I mean, scoring 19 runs, it's hard not to have confidence offensively. Again, and pitching and defensively. I knew it ended up being 19-1. So it's after a day like yesterday, as a team, it's really hard not to be super confident going into the day after. So again, I'm sure those guys came in today feeling good, and I know they're going to come in tomorrow feeling good too.
Ice, you mentioned, how long it's been. 2016 is the last time South Carolina hosted a super regional. Now, granted, again, that they've made a super regional before that. I think you were part of that team, right? Going to Arkansas.
No, that was the year before I got here.
Okay.
I missed it by 1 year.
Look, it felt like you were here forever, especially with that COVID season. Everything throws me off a little bit. But I say all that because, again, number one, the thing that is the most important, South Carolina has to take care of business tomorrow. And then, hey, we'll see what happens with Florida. I asked Jonathan Gilreath this last night, and I know you were part of this team last year. And I know during the season, I mean, look, we're not going to ask you this from a media standpoint. Granny Reese, a Watch Fox viewer back in the day. Appreciate you, Granny. We would never ask you this question, but as players, and like you said, you guys know what's going on. There's been a lot of stuff said about Mark Kingston over the last couple of years, and this was something going back to when you were there. Who knows what will happen as things play out, but obviously if they're able to get to supers, you think that would help out a lot. As a player, I'm sure you guys are aware of that. How much is that added motivation there to be able to help your coach out in any way you can? Because if South Carolina can get to that super, that could essentially save his job potentially. Again, I don't know what the things will lay out, and I'm not saying that he would lose his job, but there's been a lot of things out there. And I know getting to know Mark personally. I know you've obviously get to know Mark very good from your experience with him, what he means to this program. But again, just that added motivation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to these guys. It, they've had a lot of highs this season, some lows, towards the end of the season, and I think there's a bunch of winners on that team, and that's what they're focused on, man. They're focused on coming out and winning ball games, especially this time of year. And they have, this team's got their eyes on Omaha, I think, and they just got to take it step by step, and this is one of those steps. And I think again they're focused on winning ball games and focused on doing what it takes to win ball games, and I think that's what's on their mind, and that's probably about the only thing on their minds right now.
What do you think they learned? Because I know obviously this team, they've had some transfers, they have some young guys in here, but the guys that you had a chance to play with, and I don't know how often you talk with some of those guys that are still on the team. What do you think those guys that were still here from 2 years ago took from having that experience to go through postseason play, come up short, and now have an opportunity to go through it again and play at Founders Park and now be one game away from making it to Supers?
Yeah, I mean, I think they remember. I'm sure they remember, how awesome it was to be able to play here and be hosting a regional, and they probably also remember how bad it sucked to be getting knocked out of your own regional. So, I'm sure they took both those things into consideration and remember all those feelings that were involved 2 years ago. And so, again, I think they were, it's a heck of an opportunity to be able to come back here and do it again. And I'm sure they were excited, and I know they don't want to have that feeling again of having to finish their season here at Founders. So, again, I don't think anyone in the stands wants to feel that again. So we're hoping we don't have to worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, I'm honest. I got ice. Yeah, honest.
Ice. I mean, I'll let you get going in a little bit, Ice. But I mean, shoot, this has to be a pretty neat feeling though, as an alum. I mean, we know the history of USC baseball, right? It's not like this is a program that has never reached supers before. But look, the reality is this program, it took a hit. It took a hit. You were part of helping getting it back into the right direction, and now they are one game away from reaching a supers again. What does that mean as someone that has gone through this program to be able to see this program get back on track? And again, job's not done, but to be this close now after 2 nights in regional play.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, man. It's, there's a little bit of jealousy that goes along with that because, I would love to be down with those guys, a part of this team. With that being said, it is, I do get to enjoy some beers at these games, which is that's a plus of not being down there anymore. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be in the stands and watching these guys and seeing all the success they're having. Especially right now these last few days, and it's again as much as I'd love to be down there, it's so much fun getting to watch too. So I know I'm enjoying it, and I see a lot of guys that I played with out there, a lot of guys that played before me, and I know they all feel the same way.
Last question for it, and I'll let you get going. We appreciate you joining us tonight, Andrew. Put your coach hat on. What would you tell these guys? What would you tell these guys tonight, between now and getting ready for tomorrow?
I mean, just get a good night's sleep, man. Get a good night's sleep, come back focused, and have the same routine that you've had the last couple of days, because what we've been doing the last 2 days has been working, and I think we just got to keep it up and do what we've been doing, because we played some really good baseball the last 2 days, and if we play tomorrow like we did today, like we did yesterday, then I think we have a really good chance of winning and being able to play next weekend too. So that'd be my advice: keep it simple.
I do have one more question. Did you have any superstitions in these kind of games, and did you keep them up? Like what's the word with superstitions in games like these?
I wish I could give you a little more interesting answer, but I was not very superstitious. I had my routines. I had my pregame routines, in the cage, on the field. As far as superstitions though, I wish I could give you something a little juicier, but I didn't have much, man.
Yeah, all good.
Well, Ice, hey, we appreciate you. Going to be in the building tomorrow for the game?
Yeah, I'll be around.
All right. Well, hey, keep it going, man. Keep the good luck going because we don't want to see a Monday game. We don't want to see a Monday game. Just take care of business tomorrow.
I do not want to be at Founders Park on Monday.
Hell yes. I think a lot of people would agree. The weather was awesome tonight, but people got to work on Monday. So,
Yes,
we
sir.
don't want people calling out. Andrew Eyster, appreciate you, buddy. We'll hope USC keeps going on a deeper run. We'll hope to have you back on this. How's that sound?
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Andrew, appreciate you hopping on. Andrew Eyster, once again, former Gamecock, hopping on with us on this post-game show as South Carolina is able to take care of business of North Carolina State tonight. And again, a lot of good stuff. We had Jonathan Gilreath on last night. I thought there was a lot of interesting things that he mentioned. Talked about Will Sanders being able to get a, quote-unquote rehab start. We hear from Eyster. And this is the stuff that, again, it's not something that you're not aware of, but it's good to hear it from a player, which is these guys know what the hell's going on, right? My ass, Colin Taylor, someone goes into a post-game press conference and you're asking these guys, they're going to give you the generic BS answers. Oh, we're not paying attention, this and that. They're friggin' paying attention. They're not friggin' robots. I mean, come on. And I'm so glad Eyster said all that because it's the God's honest truth. They know friggin' Florida run tonight. They know what the hell's going on across college baseball. They know what they have to do. They know what happened in the Campbell Central Connecticut State game today. They know exactly what's took place today across college baseball, the landscape of it. They're going to go back. They're going to go on this friggin' thing, and they're going to find out everything that happened today. That's just the reality of it. With that all being said, and I said it best, just get a good night's sleep tonight. Get a good night rest because, look, as good as it's been the last 2 days, as good as it's been, how many times? I mean, shoot, just think about it 2 years ago when South Carolina hosted a regional. Again, they weren't the team to be in the situation, but think about the team that they had to play, Virginia. Virginia beat them in the elimination bracket, right? In the losers bracket. They came up and they ended up friggin' winning 2 times. And they end up winning the regional. And then what happened? They won supers on your own friggin' field. On your own friggin' field because of the COVID restrictions back in 2021. So I say that because, again, I'll never forget that 2021 season. I'll never forget the sight on the infield, the seniors out there on the tarp after the game because it was friggin' pouring afterwards. And they were just sitting there just watching everything. I hope to God, because I know there were juniors at the time, but I hope there were some sophomores. I hope there were some freshmen that watched that scene. And they were like, you know what? Shit. I hope we're in a situation where we're not like this. We're not like this. We're able to get over that hump because they had the talent 2 years ago. They really did. This team, there's no question. There's no question they have the talent. There's no question they have the talent. And like I said last night, before last night's game against Florida, you have to go all the way back to April 20th against Florida to find the last time USC scored in double digits before last night's win against Central Connecticut State. They put up 19 freaking runs last night. No errors. And on top of that, you were able to play a very, very clean game. You only gave 1 run. So I say all that because this South Carolina team, it's not just from an offensive standpoint. Again, what we saw tonight, and I'll pull it up again, Intern Joe, because I think it's important to show, right? You look at what South Carolina was able to accomplish tonight, and let's pull it back up. The statistics from tonight's game, you get to see some free ads in there too, because this is just how the internet is these days. But, I mean, look at that. Look at what they did offensively, right? 8 hits, 6 runs. Drew a lot of walks, okay? Look at the pitching. Mahoney, 6 innings. And that's the other thing, too. South Carolina, I believe, they've only used 7 pitchers so far through 2 games. This bullpen, and it's not even just using 7 pitchers. Will Sanders, he only pitched an inning last night. Veach, less than an inning tonight. You see that. Veach only went up against 2 batters. USC's bullpen is as good as it could be through 2 games. And when I mean as good, Intern Joe, I'm talking about as healthy, as deep. This is a team, and we've talked about this before. At this time of the year, it's not the best teams don't always win. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. At this time of the year, the best teams don't always win. It's how deep your bullpen can be. How deep can your pitching staff be? USC certainly has the talent. I'm not taking anything away from USC's talent, but you can have all the talent in the world. If your pitching staff, if your bullpen is not as deep at this time of the year, you're going to get exposed. You're going to get exposed. And the fact that you've only used 3 guys today, 4 guys last night, you've only used 7 freaking pitchers through 2 games, this is everything you could have asked for. Never mind the fact that you've won, which is the most important part. But you've only used 7 pitchers, and Veach has only pitched friggin' 2 1/3 innings. And then last night, Will Sanders only pitched 1 inning. Are you kidding me? I mean, you head into tomorrow, and who knows what the situation will be, right? You're hoping you're in a situation will cakewalk. But if you have to use Will Sanders tomorrow, he's ready to go. Will Veach be ready to go again? If needed. I think if you're South Carolina, you're hoping that the series finishes off tomorrow. But if you need to use Veach, I think you use him for potentially that Monday game. But, I mean, shoot, you have to be loving where you're at right now. I mean, this is, again, we said this last night, but now 2 games under the belt, this is as perfect between the wins being number 1, but the bullpen number 2. This is as perfect as it could have gone for USC.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, you talk about how much the NCAA tournament relies on bullpen depth. I mean, South Carolina probably has one of the deepest bullpens in all of college baseball. We haven't seen Matthew Becker yet. We haven't seen a Kate Austin yet. This bullpen is really, really, really deep. And like you said, getting Veach for 2/3 of an inning. Veach is ready to go tomorrow. Their bullpen is really, really, really deep. Again, like we've been saying, it's clutch. And then depending on who you have go out tomorrow, I'm assuming it's going to be Becker because Eli Jones threw tonight. Matthew Becker is the guy that you want going into that game tomorrow. You could also throw a James Hicks. I don't think you want to do that. But, yeah, Becker going into tomorrow, I think that's the guy. It's going to be big. He's going to shut him down, I would think. It also, too, depends on who you play. I think it is to your favor that, the team that you were playing has to play 2 games, right?
Can we just say we just say this and then we'll hit our ads real quick? If you're South Carolina, and I know this goes without saying, and some people are going to be like, why the hell are you even saying this? You have to be thinking, let's just end this tomorrow.
Yes.
You can't be thinking about Monday. You can't be thinking about, all right, well, we'll have this guy if we need money. No. You got to go out there and just take care of business tomorrow. You cannot give, whether that be Campbell, right? Whether that be NC State tonight, because these 2 teams will be playing tomorrow. You cannot give an ounce of oxygen to either team tomorrow night. You have to put this one away.
You saw what Campbell did.
Yeah, so these 2 teams are going to be playing tomorrow. They're going to be freaking exhausted, especially NC State. Now, I will say this. I would not be shocked to see Campbell beat NC State tomorrow because they were able to find some momentum after beating Central Connecticut State today, right? Down 5-0. They cut it to 5-1. They hit a grand slam in the 7th to tie it up with 2 outs, and then they go on and score another 5 runs in the 8th. I would not be shocked to see Campbell come out of that loser's bracket. Now, with that being said, whether it's Campbell, whether it's NC State, you cannot, especially Campbell. But again, NC State has experience. We've talked about this before. They got friggin' hosed of an opportunity to go friggin' play in the College World Series a couple of years ago because of the COVID protocols in 2021. But these are 2 teams that you just cannot afford to give them any opportunity of life. You just can't.
Yep.
And I said this going into it, and the region's not done, right? The last time there was a regional in Columbia, South Carolina, of course, was the 2 seed, but South Carolina lost to Virginia, who they beat earlier. And Virginia came out of the losers bracket, and they were able to win the regional, and they eventually won the Supers as well and played in the College World Series. So I say that because at this point, you cannot afford to screw anything up. You're in a perfect position. You're in a perfect position right now. And I think if you're South Carolina, you have to recognize, hey, you know what? Offensively, was it the same like it was on Friday night? No, certainly not. But we were able to ride off of some of that momentum, especially early on, and we have to do that again. And, we'll talk about it a little bit because we'll get into the next game kind of looking ahead. And again, obviously, we don't know exactly who it will be. But Intern Joe, let's head into those ad reads real quick. We'll start off with our good friends over at Liberty Tax.
Gotcha. Our good friends over at Liberty Tax. As I pull this up. Yeah, Mike, taxiety is that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irma, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time, Mike. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood, open 9 to 9 on weekdays, 9 to 5 on Saturdays with multiple service options. Start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through the desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. Give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. Give them a call. Their number is on screen right now, 803-462-5576. Once again, their number is 803-462-5576.
And today's show is also brought to you by our good friend, Clint Hammond over at the Movement Mortgage. Clint has helped out so many people throughout the Columbia area and beyond. He helped out our very own Wes Mitchell here at On 3, as well as former Gamecock quarterback and captain Perry Orth. If you need to buy a new home and you want to make that process a hell of a lot easier for you, give Clint a call at 803-771-6933. Again, that is Clint Hammond over at the Movement Mortgage. He has been a longtime supporter of not just Gamecock Central, but as well as our shows here on GC Live. Now, a couple questions real quick that people are asking tonight. If South Carolina wins tomorrow and Florida doesn't, because again, Florida lost tonight. If you're just joining us, they lost to Texas Tech. So the Gators fall now to the losers bracket. They're going to have to beat UConn in order to get out of that losers bracket. And they're going to have to beat Texas Tech twice tomorrow, or at least beat them once, and then they're going to have to play on Monday. You get the point. But if South Carolina does get out of the regional and Florida does not, yes, USC will host the Super Regional, which has not happened since 2016. Now, South Carolina has played in a Super Regional since then, but they have not hosted a Super Regional since 2016. So this would be huge for USC. But again, like we were talking with Eyster, you have to control what you can. And the bottom line is South Carolina has to go out there. They have to take care of business tomorrow, right? Whether you're playing NC State, whether you're playing Campbell, two teams that you can't sleep on. Campbell, they laid an egg that first game against NC State. And I don't know how much you saw it, Intern Joe. NC State, their defense against Campbell, that first game on Friday, my goodness. The outfielders were playing out of their freaking minds. I mean, it looked like freaking Willie Mays Hayes. I felt like I was watching Major League. They were just making catch after catch after catch. So, again, you know that they're capable of doing some good things. Campbell, again, even though they were behind early against NC State on Friday, even though Campbell was behind NC State, yes, on Friday, they still were able to make a game of it because they rallied back. And what we saw from Campbell today against Central Connecticut State, this is a team that even when they are in a hole, they were down freaking 5-0 today. The friggin' Camels, they fought back. And they put up 10 runs in back-to-back innings. So I say all that because, again, as good as friggin' peachy and rainbow, whatever you want to say, as good as things are right now for South Carolina on this Saturday night, as we approach just over 10 o'clock now on June 3rd, Things are great. Things are great. Are we going to be saying the same things come 10 o'clock tomorrow night? Are we going to be saying the same things come 10 o'clock on Monday night? You have to take care of business tomorrow. You have to take care of business. There's nothing that I say right now that is going to be rocket science. There's nothing that Intern Joe's going to say that isn't what anyone else that is watching this show tonight. We appreciate everyone watching, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Facebook, whether it be on Twitter. You have to take care of business tomorrow. You have everything going for you right now. You have the momentum. The offense is there. The pitching is in your favor right now with your arm strength, in your durability, in your depth. Everything is in your favor. You have to put this one away tomorrow. You have to put this one away. There's no question about you lose tomorrow night. And South Carolina has to roll on out there on Monday, whether that be against Campbell, whether that be against NC State. That doesn't mean USC can't win Monday, right? That doesn't mean they can't win against Monday, but you don't want to get to that point. You don't want to give that team, whoever that is, any hope. And again, I would not rule out Campbell. That's not to say NC State can't beat them again, but this is a Campbell team that looked like they were friggin' dead. They were friggin' dead. And then they hit that grand slam. And after they did that, they hit that grand slam, they tacked on 5 more runs the next inning. That's a Campbell team that we expected to see in this regional. They weren't there until that grand slam. Until they smacked that grand slam with 2 outs down 5-1 against Central Connecticut State today, they weren't the Campbell team that was there all season long. So what they showed today, especially late, that's a team that I wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see. That could be a team you might have to see tomorrow. That could be a team that you have to see tomorrow. And both teams, we talk about the beauty about being in the winner's bracket. Those are 2 teams that are going to be beat up from a pitching standpoint. And you hope tomorrow, if I'm watching this game as a Gamecock fan, right? Intern Joe, if I'm watching this game tomorrow, I want to see this game. I want to see both teams just friggin' tee off, right? I want it to be like I don't know, I'm making this up. I want it to be like a 12-8 game. I want this game to be so high scoring. I want both pitching staffs to have to go into their bullpens so that they have no friggin' arms, right? You have to think about some strategy. If you're a coach, you're thinking, all right, if we win, we got it. But at the same time, too, you're trying just to survive. So you want to see these teams just beat the piss out of each other tomorrow. And as you're doing that, shoot. And I see, Lynn, Central Connecticut State ran out of pitchers. That was the thing. We talked about it last night, Lynn. I'm glad you brought that up. Over 220 pitches last night. 220 pitches. Because even though they had one of their pitchers that did not go last night, their ace, and he did a phenomenal job. And look what happened. Look what happened when Central had to go to the bullpen. He got friggin' shellacked. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, you talk about Campbell, man. I would much rather play Campbell tomorrow in the later game than in the earlier game. But that's just me. That grand slam was huge for them. Now they're playing like the Campbell everyone expected. Don't let them get hot tomorrow. Like you said, Mike, you want to see as many runs as absolutely possible in that game tomorrow. Use as much bullpen as you can, and then South Carolina should. If the bullpen depth and it for Campbell and NC State, it's about average. Looking at the scouting reports for foul balls, it's not bad, but it's nowhere close to elite. So if that game is really high scoring tomorrow, South Carolina is sitting in a perfect position to take it in 3.
Yeah.
And that's what, all eyes on that game tomorrow, watch, how many pitchers they do go through and just eyes on it, see who you're playing and kind of get a scouting report of how they're playing, how they're feeling too.
So to answer John's question, in our own Colin Taylor, he is in the post-game press conference with Mark Kingston. Nothing yet, but I would assume that he's not going to say who's starting tomorrow because, again, gamesmanship, what's the point of doing that? I would not be shocked to see Becker tomorrow. I think with Sanders, at least this is how I'm thinking, okay? He pitched an inning last night, okay? And we called it a quote-unquote rehab start. To me, you take advantage of having as much time with him as you can and not having to force him in there. So if you throw a guy like Becker out there, which again, we don't know this for certain. Mark Kingston has not said either way right now, but as we do this show at 10 o'clock on Saturday night, I would expect it to be Becker's over Sanders. That doesn't mean it will happen, but what's the point of putting Sanders out there? And if, God forbid, South Carolina does lose tomorrow, you have that option to put Sanders out there on Monday. Or you can have Sanders come out of relief, which, again, when you're talking about depth, even though Sanders only has that one inning coming back from that injury, at the same time, too, you know that he can go the distance, right? If you bring him out of the pen, he's a guy that can get you, more than 2 innings. He can get you 3, 4, 5 innings if needed. And I don't know if they're going to have him on a pitch count. You would expect that coming back from an injury. But even if he is coming back with a pitch count on him, you would expect him to still be able to give you 3, 4 solid good innings, depending on how many pitches there are. So I say that because I would not be shocked to see Sanders not be given the ball tomorrow night. But at the same time, too, whether that be South Carolina using him in relief tomorrow or if South Carolina chooses to use him if needed on Monday. But I think if you're Kingston right now, you try to stay away from using Sanders as much as you can. Being able to use him in some type of way, right? South Carolina goes up big tomorrow, right? South Carolina goes up big. And that's not to say that I don't trust Sanders going in there if the game's close, but if you feel like you're not as confident with him, because again, if he had just pissed down his leg last night against Central Connecticut State, you had plenty of room for wiggle, right? Plenty of wiggle room. Going up against either NC State or Campbell tomorrow, depending on how things play out, if it is a close game, you probably don't have that same luxury. Do you feel as confident with it? Again, South Carolina could lose and you play on Monday, but certainly no one wants to have to play an extra game. I don't know how that plays out. But again, if you're able to get Sanders some extra pitching, whether that be just an inning, whether that be just 2/3 of an inning, any extra pitching that you can give them, especially if South Carolina is able to advance, would be huge. Right? You can't replicate that. You can't replicate that in any type of simulation and practice and whatever the case may be. That inning last night was massive. Central Connecticut State, though. It's not NC State. It's not even friggin' Campbell. So, again, we'll have to wait and see. Let's answer some of these questions. We'll wrap up. Appreciate, again, everyone tuning in tonight. If you're just joining us right now, we had former Gamecock outfielder Andrew Eyster on the program. A lot of good stuff from Ice. You can watch this show in its entirety on the Gamecock Central YouTube page. If you're a podcast listener, you can go back and listen on the Gamecock Central podcast platform. Both of those platforms are free. And again, you can listen to those shows in its entirety. Prediction for tomorrow. Intern Joe, I'm going to let you lead us off.
Yeah, sounds good, Mike. I think Campbell kills NC State. I think it's going to be 8-ish to about 4 or 5. I think it's just going to be Campbell all the way. NC State might get a little bit later. And then I think South Carolina beats Campbell purely based on the fact of Campbell's pitching running out of gas. Like I said, their pitching it's good. It's not great. What's the wow factor about Campbell is their bats and how many runs they can score and how quickly they can do it. It just concerns me about their bullpen. Depending on how tomorrow's first game goes, I'm a little skeptical about that. So I think South Carolina takes that game, the second game of the evening, sweep the regional, but not by much. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I think it's going to come down to the wire, as in true South Carolina fashion it always does.
I think with tomorrow, and I agree with you, I think Campbell is going to win. And if NC State gets there, I think that experience factor, I think that is something to be concerned about. But I'm going to go with Campbell. I liked what I saw from Campbell late in the game. And I think that momentum we talked about with USC, right? We talked about how that momentum played such a huge role with USC being able to generate some runs early. I mean, look, they generated 2 runs in the third. They generated another 4 runs in the fifth after putting up 19 runs on Friday night. I think Campbell will win against NC State. And at that point, and I'm just looking at what Campbell did today, because from a depth standpoint, right, we talk about depth all the time when it comes to pitching at this time of the year. I want to make sure I have this right here. With what South Carolina has done, 7, I can't state that enough, 7 pitchers is what USC has used so far. With Campbell so far, Campbell used 4 pitchers today, okay? The 3 guys that came in relief, Cummings, Roberts, Rund, they all pitched either 1 inning or 1 in a 1/3. So they didn't really use their bullpen that much today. Against NC State yesterday, Campbell used 4 pitchers. And outside of their starter, same deal. And Rund pitched 1 inning today, 1 yesterday. Roberts, 1 inning today, 1 yesterday. So I say that because they have guys that aren't afraid to go out there and pitch back-to-back days. And I'm sure if needed, especially if they're in a situation where they have to play 2 games tomorrow, meaning that they would beat NC State in the afternoon game before playing South Carolina afterwards, I would not be shocked to see one of those guys go out there again, especially if it's just 1 inning. So I think if you're South Carolina, your big thing is this. Whether it is NC State, whether it is Campbell, you have to score early. You think back to Central Connecticut State, and we mentioned this last night, Intern Joe. If there's anything that I could gripe about USC last night, a team that put up 19 runs, 19 runs. There's anything that I can complain about is that it took them a couple innings to capitalize, right?
Yeah.
You have to score early if you have runners in scoring position. You have runners on second, you have runners on third. You can't leave guys on the bases, especially in scoring position. You have to capitalize. That's the stuff when I think back to 2 years ago against Virginia and against TCU, right? The biggest issue for South Carolina in 2021 in regional play, when they lost 2 games that were both decided by 1 run, is that they weren't able to capitalize on opportunities when they had runners in scoring position. And that year in particular, that was a team that kind of like Tim Tebow. That's why I equate it to. They were long ball or strikeout. That's what it was. They hit so many friggin' home runs, but they couldn't capitalize on just being able to do the simple things. The simple things. Guy on second and third, 1 out. Just find a way to drive them in. Find a way to drive them in. This team, yes, they're one of the best when it comes to home runs this season, especially early on in the year. They have to capitalize. They've done much better. Monty Lee has done a tremendous job. I know towards the end of the season, the offense, it had its hiccups. I understand that. This team as a whole, the pitching especially. But what they've showed us from a body of work standpoint, it makes me feel more comfortable that they will be able to capitalize on it. And if they can do that, when we're talking after tomorrow, whether that be, and I hope it's after just 1 game. We don't have to sit here talk after a second game. We're talking about South Carolina gearing up for a super is because they made the most out of their opportunities when they had runners in scoring position.
Yeah, absolutely. And gotta win tomorrow. It's the one focus. It's all you're worried about.
Lynn, let me ask you this. And I appreciate you because you've been watching today and you've been watching yesterday. You say, I'll give Campbell way too much credit, especially on a third pitcher. I think, look, Lynn, the reality is this. I'm not going to be beating the drum on South Carolina quite yet. What they've done through the first 2 games, and I give them more credit certainly today with what they did against North Carolina State, they haven't done anything yet. They haven't. I can't get excited about this team quite yet. Everything they've done is exactly what we expected them to do, right? I think some of us expected them to play Campbell today. NC State, they did tremendous things yesterday against Campbell. I still, and I've said this from the beginning, I think South Carolina would be the team to get out of this region, no question about it. But at the same time, too, just looking ahead, I still believe that it will be Campbell tomorrow. And if it's NC State, that's great. But again, we're in a situation here. We're kind of teasing ahead for tomorrow. We're kind of looking ahead. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling, Lynn. I still feel like Campbell will be the team that South Carolina will play. And because of that momentum, it does scare me a little bit. I'm not saying that South Carolina will piss down their leg and they'll lose 2 games. But out of those 2 teams, I don't know if I want to play Campbell. I really don't. I think NC State, again, both teams have something that they bring to the table. I think from a team standpoint, I think NC State would be the team that is better. I feel like when Campbell can get momentum, though, like we saw today with what they were able to do against, let's face it, not a great team in Central Connecticut State, but they were able to get some momentum. And everything that we said about Campbell today with being able to get momentum, we have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, we said the exact same thing about South Carolina last night, right? When they put up 19 runs. If we're going to give credit to Campbell for what they did offensively, it's the same deal with what we said about USC the night before. So I say all that because, again, we're going to have to wait and see who USC plays tomorrow. But I think if you're USC, if you're playing a Campbell team, you just have to realize they are a team that if they lay an egg early on, the first 3, 4, 5, 6 innings, they're capable of scoring a bunch of runs at once. Yes, they're coming from a conference where you should beat them. Let's just call for what it is. The Big South, you should beat them. I know that USC has had their hiccups over the last couple of years against Big South teams occasionally, but at the same time, too, you should beat them. This is a Campbell team, though, that you just can't take lightly. And if it is NC State, like I said before, they're a team that has experience. They got friggin' hosed. They got hosed 2 years ago. They didn't have that opportunity to play Vandy in that double elimination game to go play in the College World Series championship because of the COVID-19 protocol. So that's where I'm coming from on that. What Lynn say? I like that our 19 runs were mostly scored on hits. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Lynn, because kind of like we were just saying before, comparing this team to 2021, that USC team, it was Tim Tebow. That's what I equated to. Anyone that went to those Firefly games back in 2017, goodness, feels like it was forever ago. 2017, it was home run or strikeout. And that's what I felt like with that USC team in 2021, because boy, could they hit the ball out of the park. But when push came to shove, when you needed them the most, when you needed RBIs, when you needed to get on base, that's what it came down to. My nephew was a Friday night starter in Campbell's conference. They have been overrated. Look, again, South Carolina should beat them. South Carolina should beat either team, whether it be Campbell or NC State. But I think Campbell will be the team. And if I'm wrong, hey, whatever. As long as South Carolina can find a way to get out of the region. Any final thoughts, Intern Joe, before we wrap things up?
Gotta win tomorrow. That's it.
Gotta win tomorrow. You heard it right there. And again, if you're just joining us, we're going to wrap things up. If you want to watch this show in its entirety, head on over to the Gamecock Central YouTube page. You can watch our ugly mugs, as well as former Gamecock outfielder Andrew Eyster, who joined us at the beginning of the program. Or if you're a podcast listener, you can listen to it on the Gamecock Central podcast platform. Florida, just taking a peek over in that other regional who South Carolina's paired up with. They lost to Texas Tech tonight, 5-4. The Gators fall 5-4, despite scoring a run in the ninth inning. Texas Tech scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th to go on to beat the Gators. So Florida will have to play UConn tomorrow at noon before, if they are lucky to beat the Huskies, playing Texas Tech, and they'll have to beat them twice. Tomorrow, North Carolina State will play Campbell. That game will be at noon, and the winner of that will play South Carolina at 6. In that game, some of you guys already know this, but just a refresher for some that need a reminder. It's a double elimination format. USC is in the winner's bracket. NC State, Campbell, they are in the loser's bracket. Whoever wins tomorrow at noon, they're going to have to beat South Carolina twice. So play tomorrow at 6, and if needed, the game will be played on Monday. If you're South Carolina, you are praying that game does not take place. One more question I see, is that game going to be on the SEC Network Plus? I want to get confirmation to make sure that game is – it's easy for me to say that will be on the SEC Network Plus. I just want to make sure that it's not going to be on SEC Network or ESPN. So I'm going to double check for you real quick. Right now, they don't have it either way. Trying to look at this in live time here. I think the safe bet is to say ESPN Plus. Could that get bumped? Certainly, but I would just assume everything's SEC Network Plus right now, Todd, if that helps you out. And then what's this? Pretend whoever we play is Georgia, we wear them out. No question about it. Guys, we appreciate you joining us tonight. We had a big crowd tonight. I know this is just the second time we've done one of these for baseball. We will continue to do this tomorrow. Win or lose, we will do this all tournament long, these post-game shows. So be sure to join us tomorrow night. Fisher, good to have you on, buddy. We will do this tomorrow night. And who knows? Who knows who we will have as a special guest? We had Jonathan Gilreath on Friday night. We had Andrew Eyster tonight. Stay tuned to see who we will have on tomorrow. He's Intern Joe. I'm Mike Yuba. You guys have been watching the GC Live post-game show on Gamecock Central. We'll see you back here tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll be talking about the Gamecocks gearing up for a super